So take a quick second and ask yourself, when did you last negotiate? Was it this morning? Maybe yesterday? Actually, scratch that. It was probably trying to convince a toddler to just eat their vegetables, right? We kind of have this habit of thinking negotiations are these super rare, high stakes events that only happen in fancy oak paneled boardrooms with a bunch of lawyers. But the truth? Life is just a continuous, never ending series of negotiations. You're doing it every single day, often without even realizing it. Welcome to today's Explainer. Today, we're diving into a really fascinating breakdown by Matthias Karner that throws two absolute heavyweights into the ring together. The highly esteemed, super rational halls of Harvard going head-to-head against the high-pressure, totally tactical world of the FBI. As the Harvard Business Review puts it, and they really hit the nail on the head here, life is a series of negotiations. We absolutely have to throw out this outdated idea that negotiating is strictly a business skill. It is a fundamental life skill. Whether you're spearheading some massive digital transformation at work, hiring a new team member, or literally just trying to get through your daily routine, you are constantly working to get everyone on the exact same page. Let's bring this right into your own living room. Sure, you might be negotiating $1 million corporate contract someday, but you're also negotiating when you and your partner are deciding who's doing the dishes tonight, You're negotiating when you're buying a car, picking a spot for dinner, or mapping out a family vacation. Sometimes you're going to say yes, sometimes no, and sometimes you just need to buy a little more time. All right, let's jump straight into Section 1, the negotiation game. We're setting the stage for the showdown. Moving right along into Section 2, meet the contenders. It's getting to yes versus never split the difference. So in the blue corner, we've got Getting to Yes, which was developed by the Harvard Negotiation Project. This is essentially the gold standard for principled negotiation. The whole Harvard approach, it's all about fairness, mutual respect, and collaborative problem solving. It basically asks you to take your messy human emotions, put them completely aside, and focus on objective solutions that genuinely benefit both sides. And over in the red corner, we have Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. Now, Voss is a former FBI hostage negotiator. And ironically enough, coming from literally the ultimate life or death environment, his approach doesn't rely on cold logic at all. Instead, Voss teaches what he calls tactical empathy. He wants you to deeply understand and actually actively influence the emotions of the person across the table. Which brings us to Section 3, where they differ. This is the real clash of philosophies. Let's take a look at the tail of the tape here. It's a pretty stark contrast. Where Harvard's tone is very collaborative and rational, the FBI is highly tactical and emotionally intelligent. Harvard is aiming for this nice win-win solution based on fairness, while the FBI, they're explicitly looking for a tactical advantage through psychological control. The core of Harvard's method is all about finding those objective criteria, whereas Voss leans entirely on emotional intelligence and tactical empathy to get the job done. So at the end of the day, this entire debate really boils down to one massive ultimate standoff: objectivity versus psychology. Are we rational creatures who can just neatly separate our feelings from a deal, or are we deeply emotional creatures who make our biggest decisions based on how we feel in the moment? Well, let's look at Section 4, Finding Common Ground. Here's what they actually agree on. Believe it or not, beneath all that intense rivalry, these two heavyweights share some crucial DNA. Both of these methods firmly agree that preparation is absolutely vital. You can't just wing it. They both scream from the rooftops that you have to actively listen way more than you speak. They acknowledge that emotion is undeniably part of the process, and they both stress that you have to remain highly flexible and creative when solving problems, whether you're brainstorming for mutual gain or digging up someone's hidden motives. Okay, on to Section 5, Head-to-Head Techniques. Time to look at their signature moves in action. This is where it gets really practical. When the Harvard method hits a roadblock, they pull out objective criteria. They'll point to market value or maybe legal precedents to find fair ground, like looking up the Kelley Blue Book value of a used car. Voss, on the other hand, deploys that tactical empathy. He literally tries to get right inside the counterpart's mindset by verbally labeling their emotions, which completely lowers their defenses. And check out this fascinating reversal in how they view the idea of agreement. Harvard wants to get to a yes as fast as humanly possible to build up momentum, but Voss completely flips this on its head. The FBI approach actively tries to trigger a no early in the conversation. Why on earth would you want to know? Because psychologically, when someone says no, they instantly feel safe, protected, and in control. And it's only when they feel safe that they actually open up to a real negotiation.
Voss also brings some very specific FBI interrogation tools into everyday life. First is mirroring, which is simply repeating the last few words the other person just said. It keeps them talking without you sounding pushy. Then there's the accusation audit. This is an incredible everyday hack. You bravely acknowledge every single negative thought they might have about you before they even open their mouths. It completely steals their thunder and disarms their negativity right out of the gate.
But hey, Harvard's got its own legendary knockout punch, the BATNA, the best alternative to a negotiated agreement. It's essentially your objective safety net. Your absolute best leverage in any room is knowing exactly what your best option is if you just have to get up and walk away from the table. In response to that, the FBI method hunts for what they call the black swan. A black swan is this unknown, hidden factor or secret motivation that once you uncover it, completely shifts all the leverage in your favor. It's like finding the psychological missing puzzle piece. So while both of these concepts give you incredible leverage, they come at it from totally opposite directions. The BATNA is your known, objective, highly logical fallback plan. The black swan? That's an unknown, hidden psychological key that's just waiting to be discovered. All right, wrapping things up with Section 6, the winning strategy. Let's synthesize the best of both worlds. The beautiful thing here is that you don't actually have to choose just one. The absolute best negotiators know exactly when to pull which tool out of their belt. You're going to want to use the Harvard method when you're in collaborative negotiations, like partnerships or team agreements. Lean on it when preserving a long-term relationship and ensuring fairness is your number one priority. But the second the stakes get high or you find yourself in an emotionally charged conversation, like asking for a massive raise, dealing with a furious client, or navigating a really toxic disagreement, that is exactly when you deploy the FBI's tactical empathy. Here's the big ultimate takeaway from the author. As much as we might want to gravitate towards the clean, neat logic of Harvard, the perfect Homo economicus, a perfectly rational robotic human, it just doesn't exist. You cannot entirely separate emotion from a deal. And even if you somehow can, the person sitting across the table from you probably can't. Emotions are always going to play a massive role whenever humans interact. Which leaves us with this final, kind of provocative thought. You're going to step into a negotiation very soon, maybe even later today. You now have the objective logic of Harvard and the sharp emotional intelligence of the FBI right in your back pocket. So ask yourself, in a world that is ultimately driven by human emotion, is it ever really just business? Thanks so much for tuning into this explainer. I hope it helps you get exactly what you're aiming for in your next big or little negotiation.